Be confident, be bold, be authentic, but don't forget to take action. This is Ordinary to Badass, where our stories empower women to step into the spotlight of their own lives and pursue what they're truly passionate about. It's time to step into the arena and become more than just extraordinary. It's time to become a badass with your host, Marie Sonneman.
Welcome to Ordinary to Badass, episode number 319. In this episode, you are going to hear from Andrea Nicholson. Now, Andrea, she's a holistic nutrition and lifestyle coach for digestive wellness. And let me tell you, Andrea started out being a crime scene investigator. So she says she went from crime scene investigator to metabolic, why can I not say that word? Metabolic health investigator. There we go. Words are hard. And she helps people to address their health challenges like fatigue, digestive problems, and hormone imbalance, thyroid problems, and mood swings so that they can live their best lives. So this episode, so many good things. We talk about bioindividuality, like how your health is for you. It's not a one size fits all. And then we also talk about joy and reducing stress and so many good things. So make sure that you listen to this episode. It is so good. Now, as we're getting into it, or before we get into it, I got to tell you, I don't know, stuff has been going on in my world, as I'm sure it has with you, because the last couple of years have been crazy. But for me, it's all about my dog Kono, and I call him Kono Bear. But Kono has a mass in his eye, and they're not sure if it's cancerous or not. They think that it's not, but without running a test or a biopsy, they can't be 100% sure. And he's just having some health issues. Now, he's a 12-year-old dog, so he's older for sure. And big dogs don't tend to last as long, but he seems to be in good health. Like, looking at him, seems to be in good health. Take him to the vet, ton of health issues. So I don't know. And they seem to be a good vet. So I don't think that they're just making the stuff up, but sometimes it's just crazy, but it can also be stressful. So just kind of a reminder, if you're going through stressful things, if you're going through stressful things, just as I said that, this episode is perfect for you, because Andrea Nicholson talks about how to manage your stress and different ways to deal with it and cope with it, which is helpful. But if you're going through hard things, I'm sorry, I'm here with you, and realize, like, we're all in this together, right? Sometimes things are going to be hard and difficult. And listen, I know it's my fur baby, but he's still my fur baby, right? He's still mine. And dogs are so loyal. It's like, you can have a shitty day and there's your dog still loving you no matter what. So yeah, my Kono is close to my heart for sure. But also, I just want to remind you that other people are going through what you're going through, and we're here for you, and we will get through this. Okay, so with that, let's go ahead and get to the episode so that you can hear from Andrea. Welcome to Ordinary to Badass. Whether you're ordinary or badass, I am so glad you're here. Today's guest is Andrea Nicholson. Andrea, thank you so much for being here. Excited to have you on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited about this conversation that we're going to have today.
So before we go any further, I've got to ask you, do you consider yourself ordinary or badass?
Based on your definition of badass, I am absolutely badass for sure.
So I appreciate you being here. We have had some tech issues, and I'm just going to say that I think it's because there's just got to be like this electricity in the air, because this is going to be a powerful interview.
It is.
So just a moment ago, because we had an internet issue, you had said that you were a badass, but you weren't always out there and in front of people. And I think that's so important, because it's like, you don't have to be out there and in front of people and like have some big personality to be a badass. But I think that oftentimes we don't realize that.
Yeah, I think for sure people kind of associate the badass term as being like aggressive or in your face or, being hard. And that's why I love your definition so much, because that's not at all what it's about. But it's about being authentic and being you and being, available to the world to share your gifts and your insights and all of the things. So I think understanding the definition that we're talking about does matter, because I don't know that that's necessarily the definition people would come up with on their own. But I love your definition for that reason, because it's far more empowering and far less negative.
Yeah, or less intimidating, like less in your face.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Andrea, have you always felt like a badass? And when did you, if not, when did you start feeling like a badass?
Yeah, I would definitely say I did not always feel myself or feel like I could put myself out there in any way, or like I had anything to contribute. I definitely used to really hide in the shadows. And I think, some of that just comes with age. I think we get more and more comfortable with ourselves. We get more and more comfortable with the world around us and our place in the world. And I know that was definitely true for me, having just, gone through life, career changes, divorce, remarried, all the things. And I think you just kind of find your way along the way. And that was definitely true for me, is really stepping into doing the things I love to do, and not necessarily only doing the things other people want me to do, or other people, the things that they want to do, but really just living my life, doing what I know is best for me. And just putting myself out there, take it or leave it. I don't need to convince other people to be in my life. They either want to be or they won't be.
So, that feeling where you start to decide what you want as opposed to, what other people want, how did that come about?
I think it's been a long journey of just working on myself, really understanding myself to begin with. I think I really had to come to terms with who I really was and what I really wanted in life, and why I believed certain things, instead of just going along with whatever the people I was hanging out with wanted or believed. I really had to accept my own determinations and my own path and my own beliefs and the things I thought about the world. And so I think it was a long journey of that sort of self-discovery and accepting responsibility for my own choices. I had to look back at some things I had gone through that I didn't love. I had to accept responsibility for how I played a role in those things that happened. Even the other people that did wrong to me, I still played a role in that. I put up with it. I didn't stand up for myself. I didn't say the thing I should have said. And I put up with it for a long time. And I had to come to that realization that if I didn't want that to happen again, I had to own where I went wrong. And I think through that journey, I also discovered the things that I do want and the things that I really don't want to miss out on, even if the people in my life don't want to participate in those same activities or those same, whatever it is, clubs or groups or whatever. We don't all have to agree, but I have to live my life. And it took that journey of self-discovery to really figure that out.
Did you find that the more that you spoke up about what you wanted or what you didn't want, that it became easier over time?
It definitely does. And I think you end up kind of attracting different people that do want to do the same things. And so it doesn't end up being the battle that I think we often think it's going to be. We're all going to transition through life, and we're going to have people come into our lives and then go out of our lives. And that's normal. It's normal that things throughout life are going to change. Our circumstances are going to change. We're going to move. We're going to live in different places. We're going to do different jobs. We're going to have different friends and different circles and different neighbors and all of the things. And I think the more we become ourselves, the more we attract the people that want to do all the same things as us, that believe the same things as us, that support the decisions that we're making. And it makes it that much easier to keep going, because it feels more authentic, and it doesn't feel so resistive like you kind of think it will be. You think all your friends and your family are going to resist all of your choices, but in actuality, sometimes it brings it out of them as well. And then you end up attracting other people that want to do the same things as you. So it just gets easier and easier.
Yes, that's such a great point, because oftentimes people see what you're doing and they're like, oh, that's badass, or that's cool. And they start to adopt those too. So you don't even have to necessarily say anything to them. They just see through your actions through what you're doing. So I love that. So, Andrea, I can't wait to dig in to hear more. But first, will you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, I spent 15 years in forensic science. So I actually did crime scene investigation and fingerprint analysis and all the forensic investigations. And in 2019, I decided I was kind of done with that. I was done with the 24/7 nature of that job and the high stress and the politics and all the drama. I loved the investigation side of it, but there's some downsides when you're working in crime. You don't see people on their best days ever. You only see the worst and the worst, and it kind of makes you start to believe that all of the world is that messed up, and that's just not true. And so I was ready for a transition. I had been on my own health journey for many, many years, and I had brought other people along with me and got them working out and eating better. And so I was kind of a health coach on the side for many, many years, and I loved it. And so I transitioned more into nutrition and went back to school, got some deeper degrees and certifications and extra training. And now I work full time as a holistic health practitioner, and my practice is entirely virtual. So I get to work from home, don't have any drama, I get to create my own life and help other people along the way.
So, what was that like when you decided to leave your job and to become a health coach or holistic health coach? What was that like? Was it terrifying? Like, take us back to the moment, and then what led up to making the leap?
Yeah, it was a little terrifying. I mean, that's a major change, walking away from, benefits and retirement plans and, security, all of that. Thankfully, my husband is the most supportive person in the world, and he was 100% on board. He definitely did not like seeing me in that stressed out, exhausted, frustrated state all the time. And so he was a huge supporter of helping me make the decision and the transition. And so it's been amazing. Of course it's scary. Of course it's hard. It's very different than a 9 to 5 or even what I had, which was not 9 to 5, but it's very different than an office environment or any kind of job culture when you're in charge of your schedule, of your to-do list, of the things that need to get done. You wear every hat in the business. You do all the things, whether you like it or not, or whether it's your skill set or not. It's a completely different thing. There's no guarantees. There's no net to save you, but it's also fun because you're getting to create it. You're getting to literally create your life, create your schedule, create your to-do list, decide what you want to do and who you want to work with. And so it's been a lot of fun. But yeah, it was definitely challenging. And, the reason I chose that time, I think it was just, I could see the writing on the wall, and I could see that particular role that I had was just going to keep getting more and more stressful and more dramatic and more political. And I just didn't like it. And I didn't see any change in sight in a positive way from that role. And so it just made sense. It's like we only have so many days or years in our lives, and I just didn't want to waste any more going down that path.
Sounds like it was good timing before COVID and all the craziness.
Yeah, thankfully that worked out.
So, what did you learn from that experience?
Oh, so many things. I think there's a lot just from a entrepreneur mindset that's so different than an employee mindset or than, that kind of traditional role versus business owner. There's a ton in just that. I think I really had to hone my belief in myself. That was a big part of it because my business only succeeds if I do. And so I really had to believe in what I was doing, who I was helping, that I could do it, that I could learn it, that I can do hard things. I just really had to get solid on that belief. And that was the biggest shift, I think, is, I think we can kind of hide as an employee, and we don't really have to have that strong of a belief in us because somebody else hands us our to-do list or our schedule or our tasks, and we just have to do them. But when it's your business, you're responsible for motivating yourself and creating all that for yourself. And so I think that was a big growth for me. And I think that really helped part of my, self-discovery journey. It really helped me in that self-belief of myself, in that self-concept, and knowing that I can do anything I want to do, and I can inspire other people to live better lives all along the way.
So what got you interested in health and becoming a health coach?
Well, it started back in like the early 2000s with my own health journey. While I was working in that career field, they brought in this comprehensive cardiac panel because heart disease is really common in law enforcement, lots of heart attacks, lots of, stress-related diseases. And so they brought in this doctor group that did this really comprehensive panel with EKGs and higher level cholesterol testing and, just all these things. And in my mid-20s at the time, I already had advancing heart disease. I already had plaques forming. My arterial age was actually like 13 years older than I was. Like I was headed down the wrong path. And in my biological family, that is our family history. They all die very young of heart disease. They multiple heart attacks and bypasses and all the things. And so I knew that was a risk factor anyway, but I was never like seriously overweight or, I never had any overt signs that that's the path I was on. I was a little overweight. I had about 30 pounds to lose, but I still didn't think that was anything major. I mean, you look around and I didn't think in comparison to a lot of people, I didn't think I was all that bad off until I saw those results. And in my mid-20s, I was already on that path. But I learned a ton from that experience, and it was really eye-opening to see that data, to see the hard facts in front of me. They really didn't give me a whole lot of guidance on what to do. It was just kind of like, well, exercise some more, eat a heart-healthy diet, and you should be fine. But there was really no like, what does that mean? What does that look like? What do I do? And so I just kind of did my best. I did a little bit of Google searching and did my best and went back a year later and did the test again. It was worse. My arterial age was even older. I had other plaques forming and I was like, okay, this is clearly not working. And so that's what really started me on my path to really discovering what I needed to do. Clearly, I needed something more than basic guidelines because at that point, I really was following the guidelines, eating whole grains, not simple grains. I was eating lots of vegetables, olive oil, avoiding saturated fats. I was following all of the advice that we still see today, but I was getting worse. It was not working for me. And so that was my original foray into this and all the research that I ended up doing that ultimately, a decade later took me down to the path of more holistic training. But all along the way, I was picking up on little bits and pieces of where maybe this standard advice isn't really the right advice. Maybe some of this isn't actually, at least not universally true. And maybe we really do need more bio-individual approaches. We need more personalized approaches, or maybe some of it's just flat wrong. And I think that I've seen repeatedly, some of it's just flat wrong. And some of it is wrong for some people. And some of the things I was doing was definitely just wrong for me. And some of it was just flat wrong. So I had to kind of figure that out. And ultimately, I was able to reverse all of that. When I went back a couple years later and redid the testing again, my arterial age was younger than my chronological age. And no plaque could be found. And so I was able to reverse it all through the proper methods, not through the standard advice. And that was really what got me started. Ended up losing the weight, completely changed my whole approach to things. I used to hate working out. And I became someone who works out every day and who's very active and loves doing all those things, and totally changed my diet and have continued to change it because as my life changes, my needs change. And so I think that's been a big part of it, is learning that there is no one way and there is no one way forever, and just being open to trying new things all the time.
Yeah, I think it's so interesting because, and you didn't say this, so I don't know, you'll have to tell me at the end if this is true or not, but it's so interesting because we think that the doctors are the experts and we think that they 100% know all the answers, but in reality, they're not necessarily trained on the food portion of it, or, they have a certain expertise, but it doesn't necessarily align with, it doesn't align with nutrition. Has that been your experience at all?
It has. And I think to some extent, it's not necessarily their fault. I think we as a culture, like you said, we've put this expertise on them. We've put them up on a pedestal and expected them to have all the answers to everything. And that's not really fair. We would never expect anyone in any other industry to know everything there ever is to know about the entire concept. And yet we do a lot of times with our doctors. And the fact is, they really don't get training in nutrition. They don't get training in physical fitness. They don't get training in a lot of these things unless they actively seek it out and take those classes on their own. It's not an automatic build into their medical school training. And unfortunately, because as a society we've put that on them, that they are to be experts in all things health, some of them come up with answers or give the standard advice that, our government puts out without ever questioning it. They just kind of repeat what they've been told or what they've read on some of these websites, and they don't actually know if that's based on any real research or real evidence, or if it's even helping people in the field. They don't know. They're just regurgitating what they've been told because they really haven't been fully trained. And so I don't really think it's their fault.
Agreed.
I think they really should probably say, I'm not the most expert in that. Maybe you should go see this other expert. They probably should say that. But I think as a culture, we've made that really hard for them to do. I think between the insurance companies and just the model that we have and then our own putting that on them, I think we've kind of created the environment where they feel like they have to give us something.
Yes.
I find it really frustrating when I hear all the time from like gastroenterologists when people have Crohn's disease or, some kind of serious gut dysfunction. I hear all the time from people that their gastroenterologist told them, well, diet has nothing to do with it. It didn't cause this and it won't help you. How can that even logically make sense if you take a minute to think about it? Of course, the food going through your gut is going to have an impact on your gut. And I hear this all the time from people who have serious gut dysfunctions and diseases that their GI doctors are like, no, doesn't make a difference. Like anyone who even pauses for a minute has to know that can't be true. Like if you lived on nothing but Snicker bars, that would make no impact whatsoever on your gut. Really? And so I do get a little frustrated sometimes when those kinds of answers are being given. That it has no impact whatsoever. Clearly, everyone knows that that's not true. Now, we can argue about what impact it does have and which foods are better than others. We can have all those discussions because there's a lot of differences in opinion on that. But to say that it makes zero difference is completely ridiculous to me.
Yeah, I think that's interesting. And you know what? I was ignorant for sure about food stuff and really the impact that what we're eating has effect on our health. And I know it sounds so simple and it sounds so basic, but like to the extent of like different diseases or different things that we have can really be from our food. And I went through health coach training too, but more for personal reasons so I could figure out, stuff for myself. But I found it very interesting just how huge food is and how it impacts like every area of our life. So for you, what do you attribute the change to for, for having the heart issues and then going back and then having none?
I really needed the holistic approach. I don't think diet alone is 100% of the plan. We have to also be moving our bodies. We have to also be sleeping. We have to also be managing our stress. And we have to, reduce toxin load. And there's so many things that play into it that I don't think you can necessarily just fix one aspect and expect miracles in every other way. I do think we need the holistic approach. We do need to look at all of the different aspects of our life that are contributing to whatever problem we have or whatever problem we're trying to avoid. And so I think that was part of it. I don't think we have to necessarily leap into the deep end and do all of it day one. But ultimately, that is what it took. I had to fix the diet and really hone it in for what I needed to be eating to reverse the damage, to, bring insulin resistance back into balance and get that sensitivity back, manage my blood sugars, make sure I was getting the right amounts of all the different nutrients. I had transitioned to vegetarian eating at one point because I believed that was going to be healthier. I believed that would help my heart health. If I wasn't eating any meat at all, then, I'm clearly not getting the saturated fats. And that was when it actually got worse. And so I think I really needed to hone in on the right foods for me. I had a lot of vitamin deficiencies, a lot of fat-soluble vitamin deficiencies, specifically vitamins A, D, E, and K, because I wasn't eating much fat as a vegetarian. I wasn't eating much protein. I was lacking in B12 and lots of the different vitamins that we need to get from eating a much wider variety of foods. And so I had to really dial in that diet piece. I also needed to get moving. I was not working out at all. I was not moving my body. I was working and lounging, and that was it. I wasn't prioritizing sleep. I wasn't managing that stress load. I had a very stressful career. When your phone rings at 2 a.m. at random times, and sometimes you work 2 days in a row without sleeping, and in that, you're either not eating or you're eating fast food, just all the worst things with that whole life. And just stress in general was not something I even had on my plate back then. And so for me, it really was fixing kind of all of those arenas. Now, did I need to quit the job? Not necessarily. I had really reversed most of my health challenges while still working that stressful job. But that was just a piece of my life I didn't want anymore. I didn't want to still have that stress. And I knew even if I wasn't seeing the damage from it, it was still causing damage. So I don't think you necessarily have to quit your job and move into the middle of nowhere and meditate 24/7. And we don't have to go that far. But we do need to be mindful of all of these things. We need to be aware of all of the impacts that these things are having and at least take steps to improve them. And that can be an iterative process throughout your life. Maybe you layer in one new thing at a time, or you go from 2 minutes of something to 10 minutes of something. It can be a baby step process, but we really do need more than any one miracle process.
So what would you say to the woman who's out there and she has a stressful job? She has a stressful job and she's busy all the time. She doesn't feel like she has time to plan the meals. What would you say to her?
I think there's a lot of little things that we can do that really can move the needle. And I think we just have to do our best in the moment, give ourselves some grace for what we're going through, and just, choose as well as you can. So if that means you're not able to cook at home, then take a few minutes and research some healthier options of things that you can either have delivered. There's tons of meal kits out there now. There's tons of meal delivery services. If you can afford it, you can always have a chef bring you food, or, there's lots of options. So just research. There's grocery stores have lots of meal kits where all you have to do is kind of prep things, but you don't have to, cut and chop and do all that. You just have to cook it. And so there's lots of different ways to make the food piece faster. Of course, that's going to depend on your budget and lots of other factors, but do some research. Find some things that work really well for you. If that stuff is not in your budget, then just find really simple meals. When in doubt, have some protein and vegetables and call it good. You can batch cook that very easily on one afternoon and have food for the whole week ready to go. So I think there's ways that you can really strategize making it work in your life. I think from a exercise standpoint, it doesn't have to be a gym session. You don't have to have a gym membership. You don't have to do any of those things. You can walk. You can take the stairs when you're going places. You can, park at the farther end of the parking lot. There's little things like that that can move the needle. And especially if you can do a quick walk after a meal. And after every meal would be ideal. Just 10 minutes even makes a huge difference in your overall health. I think we all probably need to prioritize sleep, and not just the amount of sleep, but also quality. Having a good evening routine that winds you down, that really prepares your body to sleep. Even a couple minutes of doing some good breathing, stretching, journaling, get things out of your head. It doesn't have to be a Dear Diary kind of thing. It can just be writing a list of what's going on in your mind. Things you need to remember for tomorrow. Things that bothered you from the day. Any of those things, just write them down. There's something really magical about putting pen to paper and getting things out of your head, especially right before bed. So I think there's those kinds of things. I think when it comes to stress, obviously get as much off your plate as you can. Anything you don't have to do, don't do it. Get someone else to do it, eliminate it from your life, whatever that looks like. Anything you don't have to be doing, get rid of it. Beyond that, just, I think do more things that you love, that bring you joy, that make you happy. If that's painting, if that's music, if that's dancing, if that's crafts, if that's a sport, I don't care. Do more things that bring you joy every day, even if it's a few minutes. That alone is a huge benefit for your stress loads. Laughter. Listen to things that make you laugh. Watch funny shows. And on the topic of watching, really be mindful of what you are watching on social media, on the news, on public media, on TV shows, movies. If you're always watching suspenseful things and mysteries and murder and crime shows and all of these things, your brain doesn't know that you're not the one facing that. And it perceives it all as stress. And I love this. You can see this if you use a continuous glucose monitor. You can actually see sitting on the couch, doing nothing, watching something suspenseful, and your blood sugar will go through the roof. Even if you didn't eat anything, if you didn't drink anything, just sitting there. The stress alone is causing blood sugar issues. And watching stressful events also causes it. So just really taking stock of all the things you're doing in your life, the things you're watching and reading and listening to, and the people you surround yourself with. Choose better, and you can get through a lot of things if you just are more mindful with all of those choices.
So good. So much to unpack there for sure. And I thought that was really interesting how you said the tidbit about the blood sugar going through the roof just watching TV. And I'm sure like the news, a lot of people's probably goes through through the news. And then I work in law enforcement, and as you said that, I wondered, when you're at work and you hear stories from other people or you hear stuff, like I wonder if that also makes it go through the roof just from hearing the stories that everybody talks about.
It does, for sure, especially if you can feel it. Like if you can feel your heart starts racing or you get sweaty, or if you can feel a change in your body, there's a chemical reaction going on in your body. And so you for sure are getting vicarious stress and vicarious trauma, hearing those stories, seeing pictures, all of those things. It does add up.
Is that something just like going for a walk could help with, or no?
Yeah, absolutely. Going for a walk can really help. Being in nature, playing with animals, hugging a loved one, all of these things can really help to counteract those things, as well as like meditation, yoga, stretching, any of these kinds of things, even sitting in a sauna. All of these things can really help build your stress resiliency and kind of counterbalance those stressful moments.
So you talked earlier about, I was going to ask you about how you started exercising or how you recommend somebody starts exercising. I know you said 10 minutes a day, like even doing that and going for a walk. Is there anything else that you would add to that or say to that?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of different ways, and I think we all have different personalities, so you have to find what works best for you. For me, I actually took on a really intense workout program as a challenge, and I saw that as something that was like, this is not going to get me. I'm going to beat this. I'm going to do this. And so that challenge was actually motivating to me. For other people, that would be like, they do one workout and they never go back to it because it's painful and it hurts and they just hate it. So clearly that's not the path for you if that's going to be defeating to you. So I do think you have to kind of find what works for you. And I think a lot of times it's about not thinking of it like a workout. Going for a walk, going for a hike, going dancing, going swimming, playing tennis. It doesn't matter what it is, just get moving. The more we can not be sitting and especially lounging and eating, the more active we're being. So whatever that looks like for you, if you happen to like gym workouts, do that. If you like classes, do that. If you like bike riding, do that. If you like playing a sport, do that. Just be active, do something.
Yes, and with that, you talked about joy earlier, and it's like, even if you find something that like brings you joy while you're exercising, like that's huge. And sometimes you might have to experiment to see what it is that makes you happy or brings you joy. But I think that idea of doing things that bring us joy or seeking laughter and being intentional about those things, it's just not talked about enough. How have you found time in your day, or what do you tell your clients to how they can find more joy in their life or in their day?
I think it's just a matter of making it a priority. So identifying what that is for you. If that's a craft or an art or music or a sport or rebuilding a car. I don't care what it is, but figure out what that is for you that really brings you joy, that motivates you, that, helps you kind of get through the day because you have something to look forward to, or just something that makes you happy. Figure out what that is, and then figure out how you can incorporate at least a little bit of it every single day. And maybe you have 10 different things. Maybe you love to read and paint and dance and hike. Okay, well, pick one and do it every day. Maybe you read one day and you hike the next day, and whatever that looks like for you. It doesn't have to be just one thing. It can be a whole variety of things. But just making sure you're doing things that you look forward to, that you're excited about, that you love, that you want to tell other people about, or you want them to join you because you just love it. You get so much joy out of it. Those are the things you should prioritize every day, even if it's just a few minutes. Find a way to make it work.
Yes, or set a reminder in your phone for an alarm to go off, like to do it at a certain time each day. Because I don't know about other people, but sometimes, if it's not top of mind or I don't have something to remind me, I'll completely, I can go do this instead. So
yeah, it's really easy to do. And I do hear that from a lot of people that are like, oh, well, I love to quilt, but I just haven't done it in months. And it's like, you have control over your schedule and your priorities. So really making that a priority. And like you said, put calendar reminders, put things out in the room to remind you. I think if we can get in the mindset of really looking forward to it, we're much more likely to do it. But that takes some effort to get into that mindset, especially if it's been a while since you've done it. You have to kind of shift your habits and get back in the routine of doing it. But try to get yourself excited about it. Look forward to it. Think about it all day long, that when I get home tonight, this is what I'm going to do. If you get excited about it, you'll remember.
Yes. Or sometimes it's like it takes after. You know what I mean? Like, I don't like running, but I love the runner's after effect. And so then it's like, that's what keeps me going back for the next time.
I love it. Yeah.
So 2 things that we talked about earlier that I would love for you to define, just in case somebody hasn't heard of them. Will you talk about what holistic is, if compared to going to a regular health coach and a holistic health coach, and then also just bio-individuality, if you'll expand on that too.
Yeah. So holistic is really just looking at the whole. So that's looking at all the different aspects, all the different features that are feeding into it for good or bad. Really looking at the whole person, the whole life, the whole environment, all of the things, and trying to figure out which things need to go and which things need to be prioritized, and just really looking at the whole situation, the whole person. And then bio-individual is really that, we're all different. As much as we are the same, we're all very different. And, we need different amounts of nutrients. We need different amounts of exercise. We need different kinds of these things. Some people need to eat more often, smaller meals. Other people need to eat less often. Some people need a lot more protein because of their activity level or their strength training. Some people need more fiber. Some people need less fiber. Like these are the things that we have to kind of figure out. What is your personal sweet spot with all of these things? Same thing with exercise. Some people are really designed for endurance activities. Others are much more designed for sprint or burst activities where they're shorter durations or intervals. And so we all just kind of have to find that sweet spot for ourselves in all of the different arenas because we're different.
Yeah. And I mean, I think that sometimes it's helpful. Go to different people. Like so often we seek one expert or one person. And then if it doesn't work, we're like, that's it, but it's not bad to go to maybe 3 different people and just see different opinions or different ways of doing things, because one thing might resonate with you and something else completely doesn't. So
yeah, I think definitely seeking different opinions is a huge thing. And also be willing to have a team of people. Maybe you have a doctor and a nutritionist and an acupuncturist. They're all helping you. They're all getting you to, different states of health, but they can also work together to get you there.
For sure. So what's something that is a common problem that your clients come to you with, and what is a solution or advice that you give them?
I would say one of the biggest things that people report is that they're confused. there's so much conflicting information out there. And, especially in the popular media, something is incredibly healthy one week and then toxic poison the next week. And, depending on what you're looking at and who you're following, you might get 15 different opinions on any one topic. And I think part of that is that bioindividuality. It may not work for the person who's saying that it's toxic poison, and it may work really well for the person who's saying, this has changed my life. So part of that could be that it works for some people and it doesn't work for others. But I think the biggest hurdle is people are confused. And when a confused mind doesn't make a decision, it doesn't take action, it doesn't do anything because it doesn't know how to decide in confusion. And so I think that's a big thing. And so a lot of it for me, what I do with them is to really talk through that. Talk through, maybe it's the science, maybe there really is conflicting information. And so we can talk about what they're finding in the research. We can also talk about anecdotal stories, because as much as those are just personal accounts, they're still personal accounts that count for, what's working and what's not, and the differences that it made. So I think we can really talk through all of the available evidence, whether it's subjective or objective. We can also look at test results, and we can look at things that are applicable to you. What does your blood actually look like? Or what does your saliva look like? What does your stool look like? Depending on what you're dealing with, getting objective data out of you can make a big difference. And so a lot of it's just education, answering questions, kind of talking through all of the confusion and trying to come up with some answers that are going to work for you. So it also has to align with your beliefs and your likes and dislikes. And, it's not just about what the science says. Who cares if it's a miracle food if you're allergic to it or if you hate it? Who cares? Like, it has to fit into you and your life as well. So some of it's just really trying to clarify that path for you and, really helping them come to that clarity so that they have that confidence in the things that they're doing.
Yes, and that was actually the next thing I was going to ask you is what can we do to start getting confidence in trusting our own intuition or trusting how we feel when it comes to our health?
Yeah, I think that's a big one. I think a lot of us have completely lost touch with what our bodies are telling us. We're so used to feeling terrible that we don't even realize we feel terrible. This is just normal. This is just how I feel. This is just what I deal with every day. And I think we really need to get back to where we're recognizing those signals. We're recognizing the small pains or the digestive distress or real hunger. We most often eat just out of habit or just out of food availability that really has nothing to do with whether or not we really need any particular food. And so I think getting back into recognizing those signals, and sometimes we have to clean it up a little first and then kind of get back in touch with that awareness. But I think that's a big piece of all of this, really recognizing where your appetite is, what your body is telling you. Are you tired because you really need a break? Do you need some time off of work or off of whatever it is that you're doing? Really recognizing all of those signals so that we can give our bodies what it really needs. And so I think that awareness is a big piece of this whole process and getting back in touch with what you need in the moment.
So, Andrea, let's end with a tip to encourage women who are in the arena fighting for the life that they want.
I would just say be your own best advocate. If you are not feeling well, if your doctor is telling you everything's normal, everything's fine, you're just going to have to deal with this, you're just going to have to take this pill, and you don't like that answer, you don't agree with that answer, you think there's another way, keep fighting. Go see someone else. Get other opinions. Do your own research. Keep fighting for yourself. You know your body better than anyone else, and it's your body that it matters. Nobody else gets to tell you what to do, when to do it, how much to do it. You get to decide what works best for you. So be your own best advocate. Fight for what you want to know. Ask all the questions. Don't take no for an answer if you don't like it. Keep looking, keep fighting, get lots of opinions. Do all the things you need to do to take care of you.
Be your own best advocate. I love it. I think it's so important when it comes to your health. So, Andrea, how can we connect with you?
The best place is my website, which is healthylifewithandrea.com. From there, you can subscribe to my emails. I send out helpful tips and inspiring messages once a week. I also have my own podcast, which is the Holistic Health Bites podcast, and you can link to that from the website as well, or find it on any of the podcast platforms. And yeah, I would just love to know how I can support you.
Thank you so much, Andrea. You've been a total badass, and I've enjoyed hearing your story.
Well, thank you so much for having me. This has been a lot of fun, and we've talked about a ton of different things. So I hope it was helpful for everyone. And if anyone has any questions, please reach out.
And with that, we'll end our show. To all the badass women out there staying in the arena, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, own it and get after it. Okay, so 5 takeaways from this episode. Number 1, each person's health needs are unique, and it's essential to find what works best for you rather than following a one-size-fits-all approach. Number 2, prioritize activities that bring you happiness. Number 3, surround yourself with professional support and positive people, and that helps you to maintain a healthy and positive mindset. Number 4, find joy in what you eat and how you move your body. It is essential for overall well-being. And number 5, surrounding yourself with positive influences can greatly impact your personal growth and feeling like a badass. Make sure you tune in on Thursday because you're going to hear 3 reasons why Andrea Nicholson is so badass, and you're not going to want to miss it. Okay, talk to you later. Or with that, we'll end our show. I think you've already heard this. We'll talk to you later. With that, out.
Now that you've listened to this episode of Ordinary to Badass, we want to hear from you. Go to our website, ordinarytobadass.com/podcast, and submit your own experience on how you took your life from ordinary to badass and get the chance to be on a future Spotlight episode of the show. That's ordinarytobadass.com/podcast. While you're waiting for the next episode of the show, wipe off the sweat, dust off the dirt, and get back in the arena.